Well, let's start at the new music, man. Harmonic Disruptor. It's been out. Actually, a few days ago was the 2-month anniversary of the new record. Yeah, it came out April 17th, so it's just over 2 months that the record is out. I mean, looking back at that record, I feel like it really has it has the classic Julien K vibes, but I also feel like it's heavier at the same time. How do you feel about the record looking back at the final product a couple months removed from the release?
I think that it was the perfect move for us.
Okay.
We really wanted to go back and recapture the feeling that we created when we launched Orgy's Candy Ass album.
Sure.
And when we did that, we really had an extremely well thought out idea of how we wanted to kind of break the wheel, how we
Sure.
wanted to be different.
Sure.
We didn't exactly what we wanted to sound like, but we had some core principles in the way the instrumentation would sound, the fact that Amir would be playing a guitar synthesizer, the idea that we were going to be using, these vintage hyperfuzz pedals and all these types of things to create a new way that guitars could sound, and that at the time wasn't being done. And we also knew that we were definitely coming from a Depeche Mode, Duran Duran, The Cure, New Order kind of coloring or mentality, but it was heavily influenced by, industrial, 9 Inch Nails, Ministry, like all this, all the heavy music that we listened to. And I came from, being in a band with Jonathan Davis where, songs like Blind were created. And so I had those credentials kind of behind me. And we just wanted to, bring all that together and create something new. And that really made an explosion occur, when Orgy came out. And I think that's been missing.
Yeah.
And so with Harmonic Disruptor, we really wanted to go back and almost thank all those fans that have been with us for 20 years and create an album that we thought they and that we would be super excited to get when we were like 16,
Yeah, definitely.
With angst and a lot of 90s feeling in it and all that stuff that we loved growing up. We wanted to go back and revisit that because we want to be alive. We want to feel that energy, and we wanted that in our in the Julien K world. So it is a little bit of us going back to Death to Analog, and it is a lot of us going back to Candy Ass and a lot of going back to the stuff that influenced, the creation of Orgy and Candy Ass and all that kind of good stuff.
What was it like doing that coming off of the California Noir records with that 2-part double record kind of, and going back after you guys had done that and kind of revisiting where you guys had been before? Did those records make you want to do that more, or what was like coming off of those?
Amir really spearheaded the direction, and both felt that to do something that was really back to our roots and wanted to add aggression back into our arsenal. Yeah, and we wanted to. We really just noticed like this huge gaping space where Orgy used to be. And so we had this desire to break back out the old, guitars and synths and all that kind of stuff and just not make that music again, but to have that in mind, that feeling that we created in mind, and try to make something that the fans would really, really love and just reignite them, because we really had a lot of attention after California Noir, and a lot of the original fans were kind of finding us, that didn't even know that we existed because we're not on a major label like that. And we really just wanted to make something that was that got us super excited and got the fans super excited. When Chester, passed, that really influenced where that record went.
Gotcha.
So Harmonic Disruptor turned into, the Harmonic Disruption was the death of our best friend. And all of a sudden the lyrics of the album took a turn into that world, and it became my chance to scream. It became my chance to scream at the world, for what happened. And, because the way that I had to conduct myself privately was, publicly was very, I had to be very controlled and measured.
Yeah.
Because it's such a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a deal. But for us on the inside, I mean, it was more than, this big deal in the entertainment world. We lost our brother.
Yeah.
And I had to deal with that somewhere.
Yeah.
And I just went to 30-day rehab, for addiction. And, and believe me, I'm looking back on my notes, every day I was in therapy for 9 hours a day. And, it's so fun.
Yeah.
And I looking back at my notes, I have entire pages where I wrote Chester like 100 times on the page. Wow. You know what I mean? We were talking about these things and these reasons and these things that influence your cognitive behavior, your processes in your brain. I kept landing back on one of the biggest things in my life, and that was Chester. Mm-hmm. And so I ended up having to really do a lot of dealing with that. And I mean, I can say that, there's a lot of things that put me in rehab, but fuck, I got to put that at the top of the list on the things in my life that broke the system. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean that fucked with a lot of us as just fans, and if it fucked with us as bad as it did with us, I can't imagine what it would be like for you and for all of you guys who knew him and were with him so much. I mean that I haven't had the death of a band member or an artist affect me like that did. And so I mean, I can't even put myself where you guys were and where you guys are because I'm not there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just one of those things. I know that his light was so bright, and his smile was so contagious, and his talent was so infectious that, it's a situation where we have to conduct ourselves a certain way because the entire world felt that. Yeah. And we have to be really respectful and cognizant of the way fans feel because they feel like they knew him.
Yeah.
And at the same time, that leaves the people that did know him in kind of a dark, lonely place because you can't really, I can't walk around like kicking over trash cans and acting out. And, so my acting out took the form of starting to kill myself.
Right.
And, and I had some suicide attempts and everything around the time that Chester succeeded. Yeah. So we were both going through a really, really dark time. But again, once that happens, you got to almost take yourself out and go, fuck, this is a time for us to care for the whole world. Mm-hmm. And that kind of builds up. And then you end up having to make an album like Harmonic Disruptor. You have to let out the dark shit. And then for me, these albums aren't just a fictional thing. Like I'm writing about my real life. Yeah. And so when you write an album like Harmonic Disruptor, you might find yourself in fucking rehab for mental health and fucking addiction. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's pretty serious. That album, that screaming is dead. Wow. It's dead real.
Wow.
It's totally real. There's some of that stuff I was doing with tears in my eyes. We were all crying in the studio when we were doing it. And that doesn't just go away. When you're done recording that song, you have to walk around all day holding that stuff inside of you. And, and that's what makes you check into, a hospital. And you get help, because you fucking slowly go crazy. And I went fucking crazy when I lost him. Fucking crazy.
So when you go to perform those songs live, fans don't always make the connections that, fans know songs come from a personal place, but they don't always make the connection that, Daddy is where that song came from Jonathan Davis, or where, certain songs came from. How do you, as the artist, separate yourself from where those songs came from, or do you want to separate yourself from where those songs came from?
I don't know that you can. I think the best thing I can hope for is that, you know, people read or, you know, interviews like this and they know who I am and they know what the songs are about, and and there's a good amount of people in the crowd that get it and they're with it and they understand and they apply it to their lives, and that these lyrics mean something to people, you know, and that's the only thing you can really hope, because you know, after a while when you're on stage every day, it becomes like you're in the army, right? You're in the business of pain, and and you turn it into something beautiful. You know what I mean? And you turn it into an athletic maneuver, because it is very athletic to be a lead singer in a band and move and do your thing. And you know, you have to, you know, it's very physical, and you turn it into that thing. You know, it's emotional, physical, that whole deal, and you get into it and you experience it with the audience, and you hopefully can use that to do something positive. The path that I was going down was not positive. Right. You know, it was a dark path. You know, I was probably going to find myself in an early grave if I didn't get help. And I'm sure performing those songs every night and then drinking a bottle of whiskey wouldn't be the, you know, I think that would be the place for me to wake up with a different girl next to me every morning and, you know, just continue to destroy my life, you know, but hopefully I can deal with it in a much healthier way now. We'll see.
Well, thank you for getting that help, because that's something that not many people do, and it's something that you have to do if you're going to make it, like you said. So on behalf of all of us, for sure, thank you for doing that and making that move, because you're here, and that's what matters. So,
I appreciate that very much. Thank you very much. That means a lot. Thank you.
Definitely, man. Definitely. I want to talk a little bit about reconnecting with Bones and when the situations of which those really happen. Obviously at Chester's funeral, which I can't imagine how powerful that was, and then down the road again with Head. But reconnecting with Bones, and you talked about what it would be like to play new Julien K music with a lot of the original members. What would that dynamic be? How has that dynamic been, if it's happened? Because I know the tour dates got postponed that were going to happen with that.
Well, Elias is one of the best drummers I've ever played with in my life. He is technically excellent, and he beats the living shit out of the instrument. So he's an incredible drummer. And the original band, Julien K, the original players, were all fucking excellent players. Every one of them, you know, everyone in that band could play almost every instrument. Almost everyone could sing. Almost everyone could, you know, so, you know, Brandon Belsky, Elias Andra, you know, Ryan and Amir, and then Fu being kind of an unofficial fifth member that's more of a in the production side. But, you know, that guy can sit down at a piano and play whatever you fucking tell him to play. These are amazing musicians. So the idea that we could get back together with Bones was, you know, it was like putting on the perfectly, you know, sized glove for the situation. You know, it was like that amazing, you know, perfect jacket that's perfect for every situation. You know, you find it again and it's just as comfortable as before. And the cool thing is that Elias has grown a lot, and I've grown a lot. And we've lost, you know, our mutual bandmate and friend Chester, and so we're coming together in a completely different place and in a different light. And it's been really nice. I mean, I've ended up spending a lot of time on the phone with Elias and just talking about a lot of the personal struggles and losing Chester and all that kind of stuff. And to be honest with you, at Chester's funeral, we didn't say one word to each other. We hugged and cried for 10 minutes.
Wow.
There was no words. We just hugged and cried for 10 solid minutes.
There didn't need to be words.
And then we just kind of moved on to the next person and cried, you know, and then we didn't really, you know, talk a lot after that. And then Head from Korn ended up kind of bringing us back together again. And I think that that's just a good thing, and it just shows like what an awesome guy Head is. Just being around people like that, it mends bridges. It helps bring things together. And if your mind is open and you're not closed off and your heart's open, you might see opportunities there to make music again and do the right things again. And we just felt that, you know, with Alex not being able to do this tour, you know, Alex is still a total part of the band. And Julien K has always been it's really like 10 people. It's me and Amir are the guys. We're the guys that created it. We're the guys that program it. We're the guys that write the music, or a large part of the music. I write the lyrics and the vocals and that kind of stuff, and I handle the business.
Yeah.
And we create the vibe and the look and all that kind of stuff. But there's an extended family of people that we play with, and they are all a huge part of what we do. There are songs where we could say, hey, you did all these parts in this song, and there's songs that Amir and I write, all of it. So it's a village, you know what I mean? There's a core group of people. But with Alex not being able to do this tour, when we ended up, talking to Elias about this, and we kind of getting into whether or not he could do it, the question just for me and Amir became, well, we love this idea. What would our fans think? And the answer was immediately, our fans would love it. They would love that. And so they were like, then it's a no-brainer. It's a no fucking brainer, because if our fans love it and we're into the idea, then this is going to be great. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, there's no question that Elias Andra will destroy the parts.
Yep.
There's not a question. That's stupid. I mean, that guy's one of the best in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's exciting, but it's also frustrating that the tour dates got pushed back to the fall. I mean,
no one is more frustrated than us. And to be completely honest with you, it got broken into two separate legs. There is a chance that it might get put back together in one leg. And honestly, I really need that to happen, because if you break it into two legs, you just added literally 10 days of travel time.
Sure.
And you added loads of flights, and you added, so it becomes a nonprofit, and that fucking sucks for a small band. That's really brutal.
Very true.
So I'm really hoping that they end up deciding to, I hope I get a call next week that's like, hey, we made it one solid run, because that would be amazing. It's very frustrating. Very frustrating.
Yeah, and there's nothing that's not frustrating about what's going on right now, but when the record releases, basically at the very beginning of the pandemic, which has now been extended, I mean, how do you guys handle that? I've talked to a lot of bands about this. How does a band like Julien K handle the pandemic? Because it's not like you release the record and then you go tour immediately for a year and a half, 2-3 years, whatever. You can't. So do you guys look at utilizing other avenues to support the record? Do you guys kind of put everything on hold, do more press, and then tour when you're able to? What does that look like for you guys?
We immediately put together a Patreon campaign.
Gotcha.
And through the Patreon, I created a system, like I said, sort of like a 3 business unit system.
Sure.
Patreon is going to be a subscription model, and through the subscription model, you get experiences. And the experiences are live streaming content that is well-produced, high-quality shit. So that's the experience model. And then also when you subscribe to Patreon, you get all sorts of insider access. You get live, experiential chats with the band. We do song breakdowns where we break down songs, live with live fans, and they can ask questions with your voice, on video.
Nice.
We do acoustic covers once a month. We do all sorts of experiential stuff. And depending on what tier you subscribe at, you get discounts on all of our physical stuff. So if you subscribe at a certain tier, you get 20, 30, 15% off of, any of the actual, the merch store or anything like that. Then we also reorganized all of our digital sales, started a new band camp where we can do, direct sales to the fans. All the money just basically comes to us. And we reorganized all of our digital under one umbrella. And then we launched and promoted that. And then the third tier is we redid our merch store, re-photographed everything, put a new merchant terminal in place so we can take every form of payment, and then took a lot of the tour merch and everything and started breaking it out through Patreon and using all of these different systems to promote the merch store. And we ended up becoming a bit of a clothing brand.
Nice.
And then we are simultaneously part of the merch store, and the physical sales aspect is we are creating, or we have created, our own Indiegogo-like campaign website that we haven't launched yet for our new album, Trauma Echoes, which is sort of like JKHD.2. And we are immediately, now that I'm out of rehab, we're going to start recording Trauma Echoes, and we'll be live streaming that for our Patreon subscribers. And then simultaneously launching that like campaign, where you can purchase the, new album bundles, T-shirt, all that kind of stuff in like an Indiegogo style campaign format, but we own the whole thing.
Nice.
So we ended up turning around. We took like the entire revenue. Let's say we're going to gross $100,000 on tour. Well, then I have to turn back around and go, okay, without that money, we're going to die. Like there's no band.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to turn back around and go, we got to make $100,000. How do you do that?
Yep.
Okay, well, just with 140 subscribers, we're doing $4,000 a month on Patreon.
Damn.
With the merch store, we did somewhere between $15,000 in the first 2 weeks. With the reorganized web store and everything, we did a few $1,000s. So we're already well on the way within like a month and a half of trying to fill the hole back in. That was, and this is pure survival, by the way. Pure survival. So our Indiegogo campaigns do like $50,000 to $60,000 in a month. So if we can do our own campaign and do half of that, and have no fees involved, and that goes all to the band, well, you can see what I did. I basically created a way to fill the hole in so the band can exist to last until tour. Because we also know that the tour, we had a bunch of dates that were sold out. Mm-hmm. Now we don't.
Right.
So the tour, if the tour works out really well, I'm not expecting it to be capacity every night.
Right.
We had dates where we were adding second and third dates.
Wow.
Now we're not.
Right.
So if that's not happening, we're looking at tour not making as much money.
Right.
So it's a huge ripple effect. You know what I mean? Because we literally lost 3 tours. We lost the Adema tour.
Yep.
We lost a Julien K run. We had an unannounced headlining run afterwards.
Gotcha.
We lost all of it.
Jesus.
So I mean, you might be looking at like a gross, and this isn't net.
Right.
But when I say gross pays for a lot of the bills, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you might be looking at like a, between the two bands, like a $300,000 loss, and that's small band numbers, but that's what it costs to do this shit.
Yeah. And that can kill a lot of bands. Honestly. Yeah.
I mean, there's little bands out there that go on a run and they make $50,000, even at $500 a night. Yeah. But guess what? It costs $9,000 in gas.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So these numbers that I'm throwing around, this isn't like get rich numbers.
Right.
This is like you pocket, $900 a month per band member. So we have to have other businesses and all sorts of stuff going on. Yeah. But I can't help it. I'm a fucking business person. I can't help it. I'm sorry, everyone. But when shit goes down, I fucking handle it.
Exactly.
And,
yep.
I'm also an artist. I sang for fucking 9 hours yesterday with Adema, and we wrote like 3 fucking songs.
Nice.
Fucking good shit. So
awesome.
And then we're gonna start recording with Julien K. So, that's just the reality. We're an indie band. We handle this business ourselves, and I think like a business person. I do spreadsheets. I do accounting. Sorry, I do. And I'm a fucking addict. So, I'm a fucking crazy lead singer guy, but the shit that happened was real, and the involvement that we need from our fans financially and support wise, just emotionally, everything is real.
Yeah,
we need it, and I'm extremely vocal about it.
Yeah,
I mean, I hide none of it. I hide none of it. I tell our fans, look, this is what we got to make. This is what we got to do. This is how much this shit costs. Let's do this together. And you know what? They fucking respond.
Well, yeah, I mean, and it doesn't do anybody any good when this stuff hits or just anything hits to sit around and be like, what the fuck am I going to do? Like, no, fuck that. Like, let's get a plan and, like, make this shit work. Speaking of that, Indiegogo, which you guys have utilized so well, so many times and in so many ways. Was that a no-brainer when you guys initially started doing the Indiegogo campaigns, or was it tough to kind of come around? Because a lot of bands, especially guys that have been in the industry for decades, it can be hard to come around to stuff like that.
It was not a no-brainer. It was hard. We saw Orgy do one and they asked for $100,000, and they got $9,000, and they let it go for months. And I'm not even sure if they fulfilled on the campaign. So we saw that, and we were just like, okay, we do not want to do that.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want to be involved in something like that. We don't want to let our fans down. We don't want to promise things that we can't deliver. We don't want to, you know, ask for an insane amount of money and not get even close. And we don't want to make a commercial that, you know, that isn't us.
Right.
So sometimes we create things by knowing what we don't want to do. You know what I mean? So we just let our creativity take over. Well, we sat down and we did a commercial. We kind of, you know, we filmed something and we tried to be fun and like personal, and it was so fucking stupid and so fucking horrible. The band walked away from the idea for nearly a year.
Wow.
And my role in the band is to be a bit of a pit bull. So when I bite onto something and I have a feeling, I sort of shake it and I keep bringing it back to the band until the band fucking either completely shoots it, you know, we just destroy the whole thing, or the band finally goes, you know what? I think we see how we can do this. And that's what ended up happening with Indiegogo. I kept trying, you know, I kept experimenting with things. And finally one day I sat down and I just got into the thing and I built the campaign, and I built it in a way that I thought that I thought would be cool. I stopped looking at everyone else's campaigns and everyone else that I didn't like what they did. And I just did something. And so the principles behind it were like, let's just be authentic. Let's not ask for a ton of money. Let's just be real. Let's just be real. We have no idea if anyone is ever going to support us here. We don't have any idea. Even $5,000 will be a lot of money to get with no history of fulfilling. We should be happy if we get $5,000. We should be happy. And so we built that out, and I started sharing it with the guys, and I think finally something kind of clicked because they had something to sink their teeth into. And then Amir came back with some video footage that he filmed in black and white, and it became the first campaign commercial. And I was like, dude, we don't even have to be in this. You just need to go out and capture California noir imagery. And that's when it started clicking in the creative side of what we do. And, you know, Amir and I we produce and direct a lot of our own videos. We do almost everything in this band we do ourselves. And that's when it kicked into high gear. And Amir he's like, once the mission like became solid, he went out and started filming all sorts of stuff, and he started having fun with it. And that's when it started to hit and it started to coalesce. And I started working more on the campaign. And then we came up with the idea of let's just narrate this. Let's not even do a commercial. Let's just do something totally weird where the band's not even in it. So I narrated it, kind of told the story of California noir, and I wasn't even really trying to sell anything. I just said, this is what we're doing. And once we had it, you know, we weren't into video being funny. We weren't doing anything like that. It was very abstract. It was very cool. It didn't feel like we were trying. We were just talking honestly about what we loved about this project and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, fuck, we hit all the buttons. We're authentic. We were honest. We were, you know, we weren't being greedy. We were just saying like, fuck, you know, you guys get involved with us. This is how cool this thing is. You know, we can do this. And we hit our goal in an hour.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
So, and then we doubled our goal in 2 hours. And that was the first campaign. And at that point, I kind of realized that we had a knack for this and that we worked really hard on thinking about it, and we did it right. And then the next time we did $10,000 the first hour.
Wow.
The next campaign after that, we did $20,000 the first hour.
Wow.
So this is like, now it's like a fucking ATM machine. You know, we can, you know, but that being said, we do put a ton of thought in everything we do. It's extremely difficult to do. You know, we sit down and we agonize over this stuff for hours and hours and days. Well, I'm talking about like 1,000 hours, you know what I mean? 2,000 hours. And we try to make sure that we always think, what can our fans afford? What do our fans really love? And can we make sure that we can deliver this stuff in a timely manner? And after we started delivering, like the first album we delivered and shipped the minute the campaign ended, we blipped the album into everyone's email.
Wow, that's awesome.
So the point was we need to build trust.
Yeah.
Now our fans know that like now after 5 campaigns, our fans know that when we say we're going to do something, we do it. And not only that, typically it's even cooler than what we promised.
It's going to be worth it. I mean, yeah. Oh man.
We were selling $500 neon lights of Julien K, and we sold out of them.
Wow.
You know, not only did we sell out, we had people offering double to buy more after the campaign.
Wow. Oh, that's awesome.
So we really hit a nerve, you know, and we realized that if we're honest and cool and authentic and we deliver valuable shit to our fans will put their fucking money where their mouths are and they'll support us. And that's why we exist. We have about, I call it the 1,000 fan rule. We have about 1,000 fans that will spend $200+ a year on us. And that equals $200,000, $300,000 bucks. So if you're careful and you make sure that you constantly are attentive to what they want and you deliver honest, real connective shit and merchandise and goods, and you're always delivering good music, you're going to fucking have a little business going with these people.
Yeah.
You know, and again, if anyone reads this interview and if you're able to transcribe it exactly the way I'm talking, it very seldom happens, and I totally understand why because I blabber a lot. But if people read this and they go, oh man, this guy's talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars, they need to understand that to create $100,000 worth of merch costs about $40,000. Yes. So it really isn't. Like, you've got to make like $1 million.
Yeah, that's just your gross. You're not netting that. It's what you're grossing. Yeah. And it's very expensive. And
it's very expensive, and then you also, to make music, you have to update computers to the tune of thousands of dollars every other year. You have to so I mean, these plugins and shit and the software we use can be thousands of dollars, you know. So it's just, you know, I just want to be clear because a lot of other bands, they look at what we're doing and they look at the amount of money that's coming through because a lot of it's public. You can just go through our Indiegogo campaign and add up how much we paid and go like, oh my God, these are killing it. Well, we are. But that being said, we also, you know, this job, this thing costs a lot of money to do. Yeah. And our fans, gratefully, we're very grateful. Our fans enable us to do it. They enable us to do it.
Yeah. So what's the rest of 2020 look like? Just kind of being patient, waiting to see what happens. I know the Birthday Massacre tour dates are coming in the fall. As of right now, they're happening in the fall, it looks like. But just kind of waiting to see what happens and hoping, you know, we're able to go out in 2020 and then 2021 has more touring. Is that kind of what we're looking at?
Yeah, I mean, we're not really waiting. We're going to go ahead and double down on new Adema and new Julien K right now. I mean, that's what we're doing. You know, we're recording new Adema. We have a budget put together. We're paying for it ourselves. We turned down a record deal, actually.
Wow.
Because we believe in ourselves. Yeah. So before giving the farm away, we would much rather record a couple songs and see where it sits. Yeah. You know, and in today's world, a band like Adema that has like a name that sold 1 million albums, we have an audience. So why don't we just find out where we are first? So we're going to we're recording every fucking week. Julien K is going to record, you know, every other day. Like, we're going to get into this new album. We've already got about 10 songs you know, that are sketched out and recorded.
Awesome.
So we're going to start doing that until touring really becomes something real again.
Yeah.
So if people want to connect with us and see what we're doing, subscribe to our Patreon. There's tiers from $5 to $500, and yes, we have people that subscribe at $500. Yes.
Nice.
No shit.
That's awesome.
So you get different levels of benefits with that, but we do stuff every week, and we do stuff a couple times a week.